Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into someone who's been making waves in Nigerian politics,
Okay.
Dr. Umar Ardo.
Interesting.
He's got this really interesting background. He's not just an academic with a PhD in history.
Right.
He's also a businessman,
Hmm.
and he's becoming a real force in northern Nigerian politics.
I've heard his name, but what's he actually done?
Well, we're going to unpack all of that.
Okay.
He's got these deep connections with the northern elite,
Uh-huh.
and he's really dedicated to reviving the region's influence.
Interesting. So like on a national level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And his approach to leadership, it's different. It's strategic.
I'm intrigued. Let's get into it.
So first, who is Dr. Umar Ardo?
Well-
What do we actually know about the guy?
Well, he's 64 years old.
Okay.
Seems to be in good health.
Uh-huh.
And the sources paint this picture of someone who's physically and intellectually strong,
I see.
very analytical,
Okay.
and really driven by this idea of merit-based leadership.
Like the best person for the job gets the job.
Exactly. He believes in qualifications and experience above all else.
Interesting. And what about his personal life? Does that factor in at all?
It seems like he's been happily married for a long time. He's a family man,
That's good to hear.
but you can tell that he's really passionate about reversing what he sees as the decline of northern Nigeria.
So both in terms of like economics and politics.
Exactly. He's concerned about the whole picture.
Now he calls himself a northern Democrat.
That's an interesting label.
It is. It suggests a different way of approaching politics in that region.
Yeah. How so?
Well, he's advocating for a system where the most qualified people rise to the top.
Rather than just the ones with connections or wealth.
Right. He's challenging the status quo.
Bold move.
Yeah.
Especially in a region known for traditional power structures.
Exactly. And that commitment to shaking things up.
Hmm.
You can see it in his involvement with the Arewa Consultative Forum.
Oh, the ACF.
Right.
Okay. They're a pretty big deal in northern Nigeria.
They are. They focus on the region's interests. And Dr. Ardo is right in the middle of it.
Pushing for change, I bet.
Definitely. He's using that platform to really advocate for his vision.
So for those who might not know, could you give us a quick rundown of the ACF?
Yeah, absolutely. It's basically a voice for the North.
Okay.
They're advocating for economic development, political influence.
Yeah.
And Dr. Ardo's not just a member.
I was going to say, he sounds pretty active.
Very active. He's shaping their agenda and using their influence to try and make his vision a reality.
That's smart, leveraging existing networks.
Yeah. And here's another interesting thing about Dr. Ardo. He doesn't just align himself with one political faction or another.
Oh, really? So he's not playing the usual game,
Nope. He sees himself as a bridge between the different groups in the North.
trying to find common ground.
Exactly. He's trying to build consensus.
In a region often divided by politics, that's a pretty tough task.
It is, but it speaks to his approach. You know, he's a realist. He understands the complexities of power.
But he's also willing to try a different path.
Right, and that's where his connections within the northern elite come in.
Ah. So we're talking about real power players here.
We are former presidents,
Wow.
current presidents, vice presidents, top military leaders, policymakers.
The whole network.
He's built these deep relationships over decades.
That's impressive. It takes time to cultivate that kind of access.
It does,
Yeah.
and it shows a certain level of political savviness.
Definitely. So how does he use these connections?
Well, one example that stood out to me was his participation in a delegation to some African countries.
Alongside former President Obasanjo.
Yeah. They even met with Paul Kagame of Rwanda.
He's often seen as a model for strong leadership in Africa.
Right. And I think that trip was really about more than just diplomacy.
What do you mean?
It was about learning from other leaders,
Okay.
exchanging ideas,
Makes sense.
building relationships that could actually benefit Nigeria.
So thinking long term.
Exactly. He's
Right.
always looking for ways to connect with influential people who share his vision.
And this vision of his, what is it exactly?
He's trying to create a new political force.
The new party.
It's called the League of Northern Democrats.
Interesting. Tell me more about that.
It's not just another political party. It's more like a movement.
Okay.
It's about uniting those who want to revive the North's historical dominance in Nigeria.
So it's about shifting the balance of power.
Exactly. He believes the region has lost ground in recent years, and he's determined to change that.
Ambitious.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not just talk. He's advocating for structural reforms that would give the North more influence on a national level.
I see. So he's really thinking big picture here.
He is. He's got a plan. And he's got the connections to make things happen.
But where do these ideas come from? What's the foundation of his thinking?
Well, that's where his academic background comes in.
Right, he has that PhD in history.
Exactly. And he focused on really specific periods in Nigerian history.
Oh, like what?
Political transitions,
Okay.
military rule,
Interesting.
and constitutional development.
So he's seen these patterns repeat themselves.
He have.
Yeah.
And he believes the North needs to be more strategic to navigate them.
Like using history as a guide.
Exactly. He's trying to learn from the past to shape the future.
That's a smart approach.
And he's not just keeping all this knowledge to himself.
I mean,
He's written books and articles on leadership,
okay.
political strategy, governance, regional development.
So he's trying to educate others.
He is. He's trying to spark a conversation
Interesting.
and equip future leaders with the tools they need.
To make a real difference?
Exactly. And one thing I found really fascinating was how he uses history to connect with current issues.
Oh, yeah.
How does he do that? He'll often reference past events, like the 1966 coup,
Right. A major turning point in Nigerian history.
and he'll draw parallels to contemporary challenges.
So it's not just about dates and facts.
Right.
It's about understanding the root causes of things.
And using that knowledge to find solutions.
Exactly.
It sounds like he's really trying to make history relevant
He is. He's trying to show how the past can inform the present.
and hopefully lead to a better future. Exactly.
I'm impressed. He sounds like a pretty thoughtful guy.
He is. And we're just scratching the surface. We still need to unpack his business ventures and how those tie into his political aspirations.
This is getting good. Let's dig in.
All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Sounds good. So we were talking about Dr. Ardo's use of history.
Yeah, it's like he's constantly drawing these parallels between the past and the present.
Like he's trying to learn from those past mistakes.
Exactly. And use those lessons to chart a better course for Nigeria.
But he's not just focused on the past.
No, definitely not. He's very much focused on the future, especially with this League of Northern Democrats.
It's more than just a political party.
It feels like he's aiming for something much bigger.
Almost like a movement.
Yeah, to revitalize the North's political and cultural identity.
Like a resurgence.
And I think his business background plays a big role in that.
How so?
He seems to understand that economic strength is crucial for political power.
Smash.
His work with Able Energy, his investments in hospitality, even building that 5-star hotel in Abuja.
It's all connected.
Yeah, it all points to this commitment to creating a stronger economic base for the North.
It's like he's saying, look, we need to build ourselves up from within.
Exactly. And then we could use that strength to influence the national agenda.
And speaking of his business ventures, there's that interesting detail about his involvement in the Kigali retreat.
Oh, yeah, last year.
It's a pretty exclusive gathering.
It is leaders, business people, all focused on Africa's future.
And Dr. Ardo was right there in the mix.
Yeah, sharing his views on economic and political renaissance.
It shows you his ambition.
It does. And his belief in this Pan-African approach to development.
He wasn't just there to observe either.
No, he was actively participating in the discussions.
Advocating for things like stronger economic ties within Africa, ethical business practices, human rights.
All issues that resonate on a global scale.
Exactly. It's like he's trying to position the North and Nigeria as a whole as a major player in this African resurgence.
And it's not just about reclaiming regional dominance. It's about contributing to a larger vision of a prosperous and influential Africa.
It's a big vision.
It is. So we've talked about his intellectual side, his political ambitions, his business ventures.
But what about the man himself?
What about Dr. Ardo as a person?
Yeah, outside of the public eye.
Well, the sources paint a picture of someone grounded in family values.
Okay,
Despite his busy schedule, he's a devoted family man.
good to hear.
Stable marriage. He really seems to prioritize his personal life.
Which is impressive given all his other commitments.
It is. It suggests he's driven by something more than just ambition.
Like a deeper purpose.
Maybe.
Maybe.
He's often described as a man of strong character.
Someone who sticks to his convictions.
Exactly. Even when faced with pressure or opposition.
It's that unwavering belief in his vision that sets him apart.
So to recap, we have Dr. Umar Ardo,
Scholar, strategist, businessman, family man.
and above all, a patriot who really believes in a brighter future for Nigeria.
Especially for the North.
Definitely. He's a complex individual.
A blend of intellect, pragmatism, and determination.
And it's that combination that makes him such a fascinating figure in Nigerian politics.
But we have to acknowledge that not everyone shares his enthusiasm.
Right.
True. Some people are concerned about his emphasis on northern dominance.
They worry it might be divisive.
Yeah. that it could alienate other regions and hurt national unity.
That's a valid concern.
It is. And it's something he needs to address.
How does he plan to champion the North's interests without jeopardizing the balance of power in Nigeria?
That's the big question.
Can he convince other regions that a stronger North ultimately benefits the entire nation?
Tough questions.
They highlight the challenges of pursuing political change in a country as diverse as Nigeria.
It's a reminder that progress isn't always a straight line.
And real leadership involves navigating these complexities, building bridges, and finding solutions that work for everyone.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for sure. But that's where his focus on merit-based leadership comes in.
I see what you mean.
It's not just about the North gaining power for the sake of power.
Right? It's about having the most capable people in charge.
Regardless of where they're from.
Exactly. And that's a message that could resonate across the country.
If he can convince people that a stronger North means better leadership for everyone.
Yeah, then maybe those concerns about division will fade.
It's a good strategy. But can he actually change the system?
Well, that's where this leadership evaluation framework comes in.
Oh, right. He's talked about that.
It sounds like he's actually developing a system for assessing leadership potential.
So it's not just talk.
No, he's putting it out there.
And he's planning to present it at a town hall event.
Which is interesting.
It's a way to engage with the public.
And get feedback.
Yeah, it's a bold move.
I think it shows he's serious about finding solutions.
But even if people like his ideas,
can he actually implement them?
That's the challenge.
It takes more than just good ideas.
You need political capital.
And the right people on your side.
Exactly. And that's where the League of Northern Democrats could be key.
If he can build a strong base within the North,
he might have the leverage to push for change at the national level.
It's a long shot for sure.
But there's definitely a sense of urgency.
Especially with the 2027 elections coming up.
He's not wasting any time.
No, he's been having these high-level political consultations.
Trying to position himself as a potential contender.
It's clear he wants to be in the arena.
Not just talking about change, but actually making it happen.
And whether he succeeds or not, his story is fascinating.
It shows how someone can challenge the status quo.
And try to create a better future.
So Dr. Umar Ardo. He's a scholar, a strategist, a businessman.
And a visionary.
Someone who's not afraid to dream big.
His journey is a testament to the power of ideas.
And the importance of believing in the possibility of change.
And it all comes back to this question.
What kind of leadership do we want for Nigeria?
What qualities do we value?
What role can we play in shaping our nation's future?
Those are questions worth thinking about.
Because the future of Nigeria depends on all of us.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Dr. Umar Ardo.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay hopeful.